Hey, what's up, YouTube family? It is K right here. All right, yeah, man, let's talk about it. I got another video for y'all today. Um, I wanted to talk about another video topic that I had in mind. But before I do that, be sure to hit the like button, do what you have to do, and yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to this YouTuber, Marshall No Commentary. I'm just playing some of his gameplay that I like watching. So he makes some really good Call of Duty Warzone content. So, alright, what's another video topic that I wanted to kind of, express my thoughts about? I wanted to give my thoughts about AI and the job market. Um, I don't think I've ever made a video on this, but I wanted to give my take on AI as far as, will AI take over the job market, and will people lose their jobs due to AI? And I have some deep thoughts about this because I love AI and I have a really strong passion for it. But I will say, in my personal opinion, I don't think AI is going to be eliminating a lot of jobs. And I will say, like, in my personal viewpoint, I think the world will just go through another industrial revolution type of experience, well, with AI. And, for those of you that saw my little show that I had with Libertarian Views Scotty M, he, like, him and I pretty much, explained a lot about the whole AI conversation. And I think what I liked out of that is that me and him like actually came to that understanding that AI is not really the type of thing that people should need to be thinking about, because if the AI is getting smarter, then I don't really think, like, you're really going to be seeing anything out of what the AI can't do. Because I think a lot of stupid people that don't know how computers operate and how AI works, they're just going to go out of it their way to say this is like what AI is, and therefore we're just going to, assume this is how dangerous the AI can be. And I'm just like, you guys never touched AI nor even used it to the point where you don't know how capable the AI could be in terms of the amount of work that people have to put in in order to keep it running. So I don't even think that when people even argue to say AI is dangerous and all this other nonsensical stuff, because people like to watch like a lot of movies. So I mean, from the American perspective, a lot of idiots go out of like their way to say, "Oh my God, man, like this whole country is gonna turn into like Terminators, man. Terminator is just gonna be everywhere." And they're gonna go into this weird psychotic mindset to say everybody's gonna be destroyed by the AI robot computers, and then it's gonna be like I'll tell you some really funny scenarios. This one idiot that I had talked to from the past about AI, he said that either um, AI will turn into Terminators where Skynet will be created, but what ends up happening is that the AI robot drones will basically kill off humanity, and therefore we're going to be like basically slaves to the robots, and basically like Skynet will just have pure domination, and then humans will just basically be very little in the world, and then surrogate robots will just take over, which I just find that to be like so stupid and so, like, so absolutely retarded. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But that was pretty funny. And then another scenario that somebody brought up was like a Mortal Kombat scenario where everybody's going to be like destroyed by like these like cyber Lin Kuei like robots, but they're gonna be like cyberizing people, where they're gonna be like doing some weird transhumanist slavery, which I don't ever see that crap even being like a thing, because most of that is probably gonna get destroyed by like hackers and then other AI that's probably gonna compete up against it. But it's like, that's going to cost so much money to even get into that. And why would anybody want to do that to try to find victims to turn into like cyberlinque robots, or at least like drones, to the point where I don't even know if you could even use the, like, don't you know that, like, that one video game called the Callisto Protocol, where like everybody's like basically connected to like a computer chip, but it's like it's so weird. Like, I don't know why people think like that. But I mean, if you want to talk about maybe like Call of Duty Black Ops 3, where that worldview is like really stupid, but I can see why people say Call of Duty Black Ops 3 could be like the AI danger, where everybody's connected to a chip, and guess what? D&I theory is now here, so everybody's going to be turning into like a transhumanist type super intelligent, like, dude, that is like the dumbest thing in the world. But it's like, I can see why people come from that dumb generation, especially like when people talk about like the whole millennial generation, which, granted, I'm 30 years old, and I'm like, I'm from the 1995 era, or more so, I was born in 95, but I came from that era where people just say like the most dumbest crap from the millennial side. And I don't side with being a millennial. I think all that garbage with, politicized generations are like is like, I think of it to be really stupid, and I don't find it to be funny. I don't find that to be realistically factual, and it's very disingenuous. So to me, like, I find like I pretty much just label generations to be like century generations. Like, for me, I'm like, for me personally, like, I'm a 19th century generational kid, per se, or a generational person or child, because I was born in 1995, so it's like me being born in the 19th century. That makes sense. And then I have other family members, that being my sister, who is a 20th century child, because, with her being like a early 2000s child, that's more of like the 20th century. And then, like, I would say for at least like my brothers, um I don't know. I think for my brothers, that would be, they would be 20th century. And then anybody else after that, which is like 100 years later, that's heading into the 21st century. So by the year 2100, like, depending on who is ever to be born at that time, which I'll be dead by then, but like that's basically how I view generational labels in terms of the scientific facts, in terms of generational timelines. Like, I'm part of the 20th century. Well, I'm part of what, the 19th century. So it's like, that's starting from the 1800. Well, actually no, I think I got that screwed up. Yeah, 19th century is starting from the 1800s to the 1900s. So I'm a 20th century child. I apologize. So I'm born in the 20th century. And then my sister, she would be, yeah, 20th century starts from the 1900s all the way to 2000. So she would be a 21st century child along with my brothers, because that makes perfect sense. So yeah, what was my whole topic? Hold on, let me pause this video for y'all. Okay, I'm back. So for today's topic, I was basically trying to say that I wanted to give my thoughts on AI being possibly a threat to take away people's jobs, as if that's going to be a big, massive thing to go through. And personally, with me, I don't find it to be a thing at all, because with people trying to turn it into like a threat like situation, to say AI is going to do this and do that, I find it very disingenuous, because when people talk about any market innovations, they don't really make any sense about what people had to go through back then. in order to deal with certain changes that they had to go through. So when I think about it more like, okay, like there's certain challenges that people go through, and within these particular challenges, these challenges had to be contested in a sense where you don't know what you had to go through until you actually saw the change for it. So, innovation brings a lot of people to a different set of life where you're able to live your life a lot more effectively, and you don't have to suffer the way that your ancestors of the past had to. And the reason why that is to be the case is simply because of one, scarcity. Economics is very important with scarcity. Two, that being the cost of labor, of having to, put yourself in a better position where you don't have to work as hard anymore, and therefore you don't have to work, for a lesser means of labor that is not worth the labor that you're working for. So basically, like you're not working for the undercutting wages that people like to always try to harp on, to say like businesses are undercutting their workers because they're not getting paid enough, blah blah blah. And it's pretty stupid because it doesn't really justify anything, and it's really dumb at the end of the day. But the whole thing about innovation within any market, like free market competition, in a perfect world scenario, is that innovation is very important to keep cost effective means available to the human element, of which people are to elevate their way of living to a much higher degree. So, therefore, the next generation that comes after you, as you get older, and if you have children, or if you have any relatives, or any children from other friends of family that you ever run into, you could pass that down to somebody else to help them out and give them the opportunity to grow faster. So let me use some good marketized examples of like what good free market innovation has led to within our timeline of like what we humans of current generation today can relate to talk about how life makes us a lot better with marketized innovation. So we could talk about anything. I could talk about TVs, we could talk about video games, we could talk about like medicine, we could talk about literally anything in the world that has changed people's lives, for good. And the good thing about it is like we've gone so fast as a species where any means of good capitalistic, inventions have made our lives a lot better and far more sustainable. But some examples that we could use, like phones, like, the very first cell phone, obviously, that came around by like what, the 1980s at least. But like, look at how fast a cell phone changed the entire world. You would never think that a little tiny device, that being the cell phone, which most like for the most part, a cell phone was pretty much like a flip phone back then. Even though I wasn't like around back then, but still, like me growing up from the 19 like late 1990s, heading into like the early 2000s, like life was pretty good to have like a little tiny flip phone. And then if you wanted to, you could just put like some like prepaid minutes into it if you wanted to do something like that. Or if you had like a cell phone plan, you could do something like that. But I mean, for me back then, I had minutes, so I actually had to like I actually had to buy mine when I had a job. Well, when I actually worked to get money, whether that's through family or I want to say like through side work that I did. But it's like, stuff like that was the future that you had to go through. So it's like it's not bad per se. It's obviously something that kind of shows hard work and how should I say, like, appreciation for for the things that we did work hard for back then. And then our lives are far much easier because we don't have to pay any money for harder means of communication. Like, let's just say if you didn't have a phone at all and phones never existed, you'd have to write out to somebody to send something to mail, and then hopefully if it makes it to somebody's door, maybe they're able to get it. It's not guaranteed, but it's like that's what happened back then in the early 1900s, where I would say before even like obviously like the telephone system was like around by the 1800s. This is like by like I want to say before the American Civil War actually. Yeah, like telephone systems were around for quite a while, at least 200 plus years, but the telephone has evolved so much to the point within a fast amount of time where you can compare 100 years from current day to day, that back in the 1920s, like the evolution of a cell phone or telephone has gotten much better for people's lives to sustain and innovate a lot faster. Now let's just talk about video games. The very first video game ever in the world, in terms of like what was considered to be a video game, was probably back in like the 30s or 40s in America, where you had like the little like tiny little I forgot what that little game is called, but it's like that little game where you have like two little like computerized, images of like a little ball going back and forth. Like you have like a little white looking box, and then you kind of hit it back and forth. Like you had like a game like that back in like the day, but I forgot how that game was actually set up. I think you had to connect it to your TV, but it's like having stuff like that was like so cool. And I actually do remember playing like a game like that growing up in my time when I was when I was growing up, as like a little kid. Eventually, like those games ended up becoming very massive, beautiful arcade games where you could play like StarCraft Fighter, or you could play like little, Pac-Man, or basically play like little wall tag or something like that. Like having stuff like that makes a generation look back, like makes future generations look back to say, wow, back then it was so weird to see like the classic, evolution of wait, hold on, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm back. So basically my argument is that the evolution of seeing anything that you see from any current modern generation idea, like video games or the cell phone or TVs, if you compare it at least 100 years from its current year of like what you see, the evolution of those innovational items have expanded our lifestyle a lot faster, to the point where people don't need to go back to the old days of what it's like to have something that is like old school or not as like effective. And if people don't innovate in any civilization, you're not able to go to a better structure to advance your life further. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm gonna use like a different video. Alright, I'm back. So, yeah, basically, my whole take is like, if you think of any good idea that you could think of any innovational idea that you've seen, like video games, especially with consoles, like you had the Atari system back in like the 1990s or 1980s, but then way back then, like I said, back in like the early 1940s or 30s, you had like the tiny little cube, like tiny little white ball that you can go back and forth with, like two parallel bars on a screen TV, and then you can go back and forth with it. And I think you could do that on the computer, but I mean, like, stuff like that has like changed childhoods, like throughout many different generations. And that's like the true beauty of having like like a true, free market, innovation, how should I say, influence to bring new ideas to competing markets where people don't have to work as hard to actually experience new ideas and actually advance their civilizations further. But I mean, if you want to get more technical, you can like think of like any hardworking job, like being a farmer or being a general laborer. Like, let's just say you're working in the minefields, and well, no, like yeah, like I'm sorry, like if you work inside of the coal mine fields, or if you work as a construction worker or anything to that level, um, everything that people used to do to put their lives at risk to work as a, I don't know, let's just say they were probably working as a, as like a mountain worker, and they were basically building railroad innovation back then in the 1800s as like a, I don't know, pretty much like a general laborer, but they were going through like back breaking work to the point where some workers ended up passing away where they were working in really harsh working conditions. Like those days are over where those people don't have to, like people of today don't have to go back to doing that, because if people went back to like how ancient civilizations were where people had to work their butts off just to build civilization, then most of us would end up quitting and then we'd end up suffering and dying. Because it's like, if you stick to a level of poor innovation where you're not having to update your technology further to bring people to a higher level of understanding that there are better things out there to improve your own economy, then that's never going to bring people to a better chance of actually living effectively. So, to me personally, I think market innovations are life saving and they're labor saving, because you can save so much time and effort to help people out where they don't have to suffer as much and they could actually get to their goals a lot faster. So I think that's a really great way to help people out to achieve their goals. So I think that's always something to bring to newer generations, to see that newer market innovations over time make humanity a lot smarter and stronger. And the more that we continue to create innovations, the better it's going to be for many more generations to come, where they're going to look back and say, wow, look at how far mankind has gotten with the innovation of, let's just say, TVs, computers, the medical industry with medicine, or having AI do anything of that level. So, like, if you know exactly what I'm saying, like, I will definitely say go back and watch that live video, that live stream that I did with Libertarian Scott, or basically his other name goes by Libertarian Views Scotty M, and that will definitely explain like why I brought up with the whole thing about innovation being important. But if you want to like look at more deeper, information, I would definitely suggest going to the Mises, Institute, that talks about why innovation is important. If you just Google it onto Google, you'll be able to see that, and that's always like effective to kind of get information on that. But I will also say, I think Thomas Sowell, he actually had some articles that he wrote back in the past about why innovation is very, impactful, and why most civilizations actually succeed for it. So I think that's something that I can very well appreciate from certain, like from certain like economists that are from the Austrian school, that can make good defenses to say that innovation is very effective for our species, and if we as humans, if we don't take advantage of it, of discovering technology at the at the fingertips of our desires of what we could do, then imagine what other previous civilizations could have done with their innovations a lot faster. Like if you like I'll use like certain civilizations like the Roman Empire, if they weren't status and they weren't going out of their way invading people and trying to just take over land and just try to be, more innovative to help their own people out and actually like be helpful to the rest of the world. The Romans would have been one of the very first, well, one of the very first and fewest civilizations to discover steam power energy, where they would have created steam power energy technology. Where imagine if they created steam power boats or anything to that level of creating steam power, factories or anything to that level. Like the ideas that the Roman Empire could have made could have been endless that would have been translated to today's worldview of having high level, steam power factories or steam powered technology devices or anything like that. So having stuff like that in ancient societies would have been amazing. You could also see like even, that the Arabic, countries, especially in the ancient Mesopotamian regions like ancient Sumer in modern day Iraq, they would have had great ideas come about with a lot of their oil, a lot of their very good like high rich mineral resources where they could have created like a lot of great innovational medicines and actually like help people out with just anything, that could be everyday living necessities. So I mean that's something that was never even probably discovered, and a lot of them just ended up ignoring it because they were fighting too much and they were going through a lot of very corrupted government, I guess like overthrows with very bad leaders and all that. So I mean, there's plenty of endless civilizations that you could just go back in time and just see that having the free market actually be, that the main innovator of ideas has helped people out for millennia. And I mean, it was always there. It's not just something from the Marxist point of view to say that only capitalism is just here because Karl Marx somehow came up with that word. And yes, it is a communist word to say the word capitalist, but as far as free market innovational industries from the past has always dated back from like the ancient times of maritime trade. So it's like, you can't really say capitalism really existed for 200 plus years because it's not something that really makes any sense because people were always trading back then. So it's kind of something that has existed since the crack of dawn of human species. So I would say, the ancient time frames of like ancient civilizations from the, let's just say like the earliest Middle Eastern nations or the Arabic kingdom nations and all that, like that was always there from from the very beginning. So it's like, it's important to note that the early stages of capitalists, capitalist interactions and innovations have started in a black market, and then eventually over time like it's been kind of corrupted with people that wanted to fight against it and not have competitors in a market where they're getting the state involved, and therefore corporatism is evolved out of it, which is just a pseudo version of just being anti free market and being pro coercion, being pro protectionist for coercive businesses that are being given political protection. So that pretty much makes sense of like why people would make certain claims against innovations like AI, to say AI would be bad because think about what all these bad businesses would do. So that's why people speak the way they speak, because they're too afraid of seeing change, but knowing that their ignorance is holding them back to not understand what AI can do. And it's not something that's just newly discovered. It's been here since the inception of a computer has ever been created, as far as the technological advancements of one. It's just that AI, it has been developed a lot better, and now we're coming to discovery to know that a computer can think on its own, and we're just like basically we as a human species, we're advancing AI to be a lot stronger, so we can be stronger on top of it. And all the great things that AI can do, especially with medicine, and think about, if we ever created android drones where they would actually be really smart and effective to help us with heavy loaded labor, uh, that would be awesome. I would like to see that. That would be a very great worldview to have where you can have like kind of like a Jarvis like helping hand from Batman where you could have like a robot help you think, and then on top of that you can grow a lot faster. So I mean the opportunities are so endless, and the one good thing that I would really like to see out of AI, if it ever happens, hold on, let me pause it. All right, I'm back. Yeah, the one good thing that I would really like to see out of AI, if it ever happens, through this particular lifetime, is that I want to see AI get rid of copyright, especially on YouTube, and like actually fight against a lot of legal, like, institutions, especially like people that are like lawyers and all that, because if you do think about it, like if AI becomes that strong and that smart enough to actually create its own functions to think against bad human actors and bad, corrupted like status government institutions, like um that would be very interesting. That would be very, very cool to see how much influence the AI can do to go after bad corrupted actors. Because if that is to be the case, where people are able to utilize AI to defend themselves in a court of law, for example, do you realize how much power that you could have doing that? That would be so much better than having people trying to protect you in a court of law, i.e., a lawyer, and you could have AI help the world out better for people to stick up for themselves. But that's just obviously just like a little idea to be thrown out there. But let's just like think about it in the terms of copyright. If copyright becomes obsolete, where AI is able to defeat it and actually utilize it for its own good, life would be so much better, bro. Like there would be far greater opportunities to achieve with the innovation of AI. And there's nothing that anybody can say to say that AI is bad, because AI is already doing good things for the world. So all the bad actors that are going to be using AI, it's gonna fall apart to the point where these bad actors are gonna end up losing with their own competitive AIs that are going to be fighting up against it. So I don't really care like what anybody says, but it's like the whole like stupid like dramatic mindset that people say that, oh, the world's gonna be Terminator or Mortal Kombat, Cyberlink, blah blah blah, people getting attacked in Cyber Eyes, like that has to be like the dumbest crap ever. And it's like it makes no damn sense. All you're doing is just putting yourself in a much worse position. And you're saying a lot of stuff that people had said about the innovation of, let's just say, cars coming to the world. Everybody would say, oh, well, why would we need to innovate the cars? Cars coming to the world are very dangerous. Like, why can't we use horses? Horses are better. But guess what? Horses actually end up getting sick and then they die when they start getting caught with diseases. And on top of that, you have to take care of them. Like, you have to maintenance them very, very well. It's like it's better to have a car that you could fix year round versus having a horse where you don't know if your horse is going to live. So yeah, like innovation is a great thing for the world, because people have complained about, well, what about this idea? What about that idea? Oh, this would be so dangerous if we brought this particular medicine to the world to cure cancer. Don't you think that's like blah 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 dangerous? Like, dude, like it does not matter. You out of all people that complain about that are the same people from the past that are too afraid to see change, because you don't know how markets operate. And guess what? Nobody can't predict the future, but we cannot hold back ideas that that can help our species grow until we see what is good and what is not good. Let the market compete and let people do what they need to do. If I have a good idea and I don't need to have any licenses to create a business, and I could have AI just help me do whatever, and I create everything from from my own scratch to create my own company. Like, think about it. Like, the world with AI, if I could just make things create with a snap of like my fingers, to have AI robots think the way I think, but to help me grow my enterprises, my ideas, anything that I want to do. If I want to make like a video game today and I want to make Call of Duty out of my own image with AI, it would be so dope, bro. If I could like rethink Call of Duty Warzone in my own worldview with AI, AI could just listen to my voice, and guess what? I could talk with it to say, hey, could you do something with this? Could you do something with that? I could put prompts into the AI and it could do it for me. The world would be so much happier and so much more fun. But like I said, it's a work in progress. AI is not perfect, but I don't care for it to be perfect. I want to just enjoy my life to see what AI can do, because there's so many great things that AI can prioritize, and a lot of people are a lot of people are too are too blind, for not seeing the change. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say, man. That's why that I wanted to kind of give like my take about AI, and I think AI is a very beautiful tool that is going to be great for the future. And I'm personally going to get into AI to advance my career within IT for cybersecurity. So that's something that I'm doing to kind of get to that level. But I'm not going to let people say that AI is dangerous, because if you're not doing anything to get inside the industry to actually work against AI, and you're so worried about what the future can hold for AI, then I don't care what anybody says, because it's like, if you're so worried about what the dangers pose out of it, why aren't you going in there to actually fix it? Why are you letting something grow as a threat when you don't need to be doing that? So that's my only concern. Well, that's my only criticism that I have towards people that say bad things and all this fearful crap about AI, because these people obviously want to see bad things happen, and they're not good people. So for the people that are good, that are trying to make a difference with it, I salute you, and I hope that I can join that battle to bring change to the world with computers and all that. So yeah, that's very much it, man. I definitely will keep you guys up to date with more news. So yeah, I just wanted to give like my take about AI. So hope you guys enjoy it, and yeah, I'll see you guys later. All right, peace out. Bye.